Hello everyone. I think we are a little early. This is 17:58. We are 2 minutes before time. Uh, so while we are at it, we are 1 minute. We have 1 minute to start. Okay. Uh, Good evening, everybody. This is Madhukant Kumar. I am an officer of Indian Railway Traffic Service of 2016 batch. It's been 3.5 years since I joined this service. Now, let me briefly give you my education background. I have graduated in dual civil engineering from IIT Madras with master's specialization in infrastructure. So this was back in 2013. After I graduated in 13, I went on to prepare for civil services and then joined civil services in 2016. Immediately before joining civil services, I had a brief stint in private sector. I was working as senior data analyst in a firm in Chennai. After that, I joined civil services, did a training of about 18 months, and then currently I am posted as Area Officer Tughlakabad. I will give you a brief about what my service entails, Indian Railway Traffic Service, in the course of our lecture. So let's get initiated. Okay, so the agenda for today's lecture will be okay. Before I actually initiate, I would request everybody to please jot down because not everything that I speak will be in the slides. So please have a pen and a paper. Let's take few seconds and get down to pen and paper business. If you do not have immediate access to pen and paper, you can jot down on your smartphone as well. We will talk briefly, very briefly, about what an ideal career should be, what careers you should choose, and how is civil services as a career option. Then we will also talk about civil services. What are the different services this particular exam actually provides you? Okay, and what is the career progression like? Why and why not you should choose civil services? And whether you should actually prepare for civil services, what is the process like, its impact on the society. So we will not be following any order per se because it's not a classroom lecture to make you bored. Uh, we would just be in orderly because order is something that youngsters like us abhor. We will also talk because I presume that many of the audience for this particular session is aspirants for civil services examination CSE, and therefore we will also talk briefly about preparation of CSE. What are the frequently asked questions as far as preparation of civil services is concerned, and if these questions do not get covered in FAQs, then we will also go to question and answer session. It will be at the end of my session, about 15-20 minutes we'll go for Q&A. Let's begin. What is an ideal profession? So this is actually a 5-tier model of human needs. Uh, 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 just listen to me. So let's just look at the bottom one, physiological needs. So for any human being, in Hindi what we call roti, kapda and makan is the basic thing that you need. In English, if you say, it's food, clothing and shelter. So food, clothing, shelter and other physical basic needs is something that you want any job to give you besides other higher needs. So as you go higher, you have safety needs. Once you have, let's say, you are earning 80,000 rupees a month. So, and let's say 1 month you have earned 80,000 rupees. Next month you would want to earn the same money or probably something close to that figure. You would not want a situation wherein you are actually thrown out of the company. So you want a safety net. You want sort of financial security. for you to be deriving uh, satisfaction out of a job. The next in line is social aspect of a particular job. So if you're doing a particular job, whether your profession has, you actually derive a sense of belonging in that profession is actually also very important. The next is esteem. Let's say you are working in a firm. Are you respecting the job? Do you feel that you actually like that job, and do you also have a sense of respect for that, and do you also command respect from other members of a society, other your colleagues? So that is something that is esteem. Now when we look at the first four, so these four are called your basic needs, but whereas this is your higher need. So this is what we call growth need. So let me just go to this. So the first four, actually what happens is, as let's say you want to earn 50,000 a month. Once this 50,000 a month criteria is met, you would no longer want to earn 50,000, because you know this is already met, so you already have that particular criteria fulfilled. So your motivation decreases as these needs are met. Whereas if you go to the fifth one, self actualization, so this self actualization is the desire to become the maximum that you can be. For instance, if you're a painter and you are actually good at painting, you would want to, you would want to earn as much accolade as possible in the arena of painting, and therefore your motivation actually keeps increasing as these needs keep getting met. Now why am I talking about all this? I'm talking about all this because civil services is one job wherein you can get all these requirements fulfilled. You can have your physical needs, safety needs, security needs, social respect, as well as self actualization having been fulfilled. Okay, now let's go to what civil services is. So this is a little bit of philosophy. Now let's get back to business. What civil services is? Civil services, actually, the examination of civil services that that you have is conducted by Union Public Service Commission (UPSC) every year. This actually recruits for two examinations. One is All India Service, the other is Central Service. I will talk about state service later in a short while. What All India Services is? All India Services, I'll give you what All India Service and Central Service, what are the differences. All India Services basically has three services, many of you may be knowing: administrative, police and forest. The Central Services actually recruits for a couple of Group A service in civil services I'm talking about, and one Group B services, that is Armed Forces Headquarters services. Civil services also recruits for four Group B services, and these are DANIX, which is Delhi Andaman Nicobar Civil Services, Police Services, and similarly for Pondicherry Civil and Police. The state services recruit for their state specific services, and this is done by separate state public service commission. So for Tamil Nadu it will be TNPSC, Tamil Nadu Public Service Commission. Similarly for Bihar it will be BPSC, Bihar Public Service Commission. So they will be recruiting for their states. Now what is the difference between All India Services and civil central services? Just listen to me. All India Services are cadre specific. So once you get allotted to All India Services, you will be given a particular cadre. Let's say you have been selected into All India Services, you are given Telangana cadre. Now you, for your entire career, you will be assigned to Telangana cadre. You will remain confined to Telangana as far as your state postings are concerned. You can obviously go for central deputations and deputations in other ministries, but as long as you are in the state, you will be part of Telangana. Whereas if you are in central service, you can be posted anywhere in India. For instance, I belong to Indian Railway Traffic Service. I can be posted right now. I am in Delhi, Tughlakabad. I can tomorrow I can be posted in Chennai also. But if I am in administrative service, police service, and forest service, if I am in Madhya Pradesh, I will remain in Madhya Pradesh no matter what, unless I get posted on deputations. Okay, so places of postings is one thing. Next thing is uniformity. So since central services are governed by central services conduct rules, and therefore there is a set of uniformity within the same service across the states. Whereas see, this is state specific, and therefore across the states you will find that some IAS officers in Tamil Nadu get promoted faster than probably Telangana, or vice versa. Therefore, you cannot say that there is a sense of uniformity across states as far as All India services are concerned. Okay. Now, what are the services within All India services and within central services, that we'll see in the next slide. So, All India services, I told you, administrative, police, and forest service. So, I'll talk very briefly about what All India Service is. All India Service, so let's talk about administrative service, IAS. IAS are responsible for executing the developmental policies. They keep an eye on law and order, and also they are also responsible for policy formulation as well. So this is one of the most prestigious service, the best service within the civil service. Okay. Now let's go to IPS. Now see, when I say the best, it is my personal opinion. You may have something else, because there are people who get fascinated by police service. There are people who get fascinated by foreign service. There are people who opt for revenue service as their first option. So I'm not saying this is my personal opinion per se. So let me put that disclaimer in the beginning itself. Now let's go to police service. Police service is one of the prestigious All India services. It is responsible for maintaining law and order. It also does criminal investigation. They are also part of the intelligence machinery of the country and of the state. Uh, and they are also very vital in disaster management, riot control, anti-corruption, etc. Forest service, as the name suggests, it basically relates to environmental upkeep. Uh, Brief about how forest service selection happens. Forest service earlier was not through civil services. Now what has happened is the preliminary examination of forest service is actually linked with the preliminary examination of civil services. But after the preliminary examination, the mains examination of forest service and interviews of forest service happen separately as against civil services. What are central services? Central services may you have foreign service, which relates to diplomacy. Diplomacy has been an evolving field, especially with the onset of globalization. What has happened is your diplomacy is no longer confined to the political and security aspects. It has sort of ventured into economic aspects as well, and therefore IFS officers have to be on their toes in order to manage a whole and integrated diplomacy. Revenue service, there are two aspects, because revenue service deal with taxation. So there are two kinds of taxes. One is direct taxes, another is indirect taxes. And therefore, for direct taxes, you have IRS IT. For indirect taxes, you have IRS customs and GST. Let me talk about railway traffic service in brief. Railway traffic service relates to operations of railways. So uh, uh, this is a service that deals with the front line of railways. Operations and commercial aspect of entire railways is dealt by Indian Railway Traffic Service. So railways, having been one of the biggest organization in the world, has its entire earning left to the entire cadre of IRTS, Indian Railway Traffic Service. They are also responsible for day-to-day operations, disaster management, as well as coordination among different verticals that we have within railways, different engineering departments that we have within railways. So this is IRTS in brief. Then you have sort of accounting services, and there are others: Indian Postal Service, Indian Information Service, etc. Accounting services are one of the most prestigious accounting services in Indian Audit and Account Service. This has one of the fastest promotions after IAS, mainly because its cadre controlling authority is CAG. CAG is your Controller and Auditor General of India. So you would read in quality. Let me not go into what CAG is all about. It's a constitutional body. IRAS is Railway Account Service. They manage the finance of railways. Similarly, you have Civil Account Service, Defense Account Service, and PNT Account Service, etc. Okay, now let me go into what are the career progression in bureaucracy. So this is the bureaucratic ladder that you have. Uh, so just focus on the center, and we will deal with its counterparts within the state later on. Just focus on center. So this is assistant secretary post. So this is the first post that normally an IS officer gets, assistant secretary. So this is a junior scale post. We will talk about pay also later on. Let's first see. And you rise to become, director is equivalent to DM. Uh, uh, we will see that field posting also. Uh, then joint secretary. Once you become joint secretary, you get invariably posted in the ministries, and you get a rank of 26 in order of precedence. So that essentially means you are 26th most important person in the entire order of precedence in Government of India. Then you go on to become additional secretary, and secretary is the apex grade that one can achieve. Although cabinet secretary is the senior most bureaucrat in the entire country, and this is just one person, mind you. There is no equivalent for cabinet secretary in state government. Okay, now let's go to the field postings. Most of you might be interested in what a DM scale is. So you get to become DMs within invariably 6 to 7 years. So there are states which have earlier postings of DM, and there are states which have, that is what I was telling you. There is no uniformity across states as far as career progression is concerned. It varies. So Tamil Nadu it is higher. In Odisha it is a shorter period. So Odisha you can become DM very early. In Tamil Nadu you probably become DM a little late, or I might be wrong. It's might vice versa. So forget about what scale is. You will remember once you enter into services. So this is all about, and divisional commissioner is the maximum that you can reach as far as field is concerned. Because after that, you will invariably get posted into ministries and get involved into policy formulation rather than actually policy implementation. So field postings are invariably executing the policies, whereas these people are actually formulating the policies. Now let's briefly look at what is the pay of this thing. The pay may not be very appealing to you. For instance, a junior scale officer enters into service with a pay of 56,100. So this is just the basic. This does not include other allowances such as DA and traveling allowance and annual increment, etc. But it varies. आपको ज़्यादा you will not get much. It maybe 56 to 63, 64, something like that. So that will be your basic as far as pay is concerned. Now, but anyway, this is pay is not an important factor for people to prepare for civil services. Anyway, now let's go to actually now what I'm trying to go through is preparation for CSE. This is a very important thing for aspirants. Now, as I told you, you should have your pen and paper ready. So please keep them ready because there are things that I might be talking about and which is not present in my slide as well. So I'll be speaking, but it may not be in the written format in my slide. So please have your pen and paper ready. Okay, so stages of examination. Most of you might be aware there are 3 stages of this particular examination: the preliminary, mains, and interview. The preliminary has 2 papers. One is GS paper, and the other is aptitude test, CSAT. We call it. CSAT is qualifying. You just have to attain 33% marks, and you are in. The first paper is actually evaluated, and merit is based prepared on that. But once you are through for the mains examination, your prelims score is out of question in preparing the entire merit order. So now you come to second thing, that is prelims is done. Now you come to mains. Okay, so mains may what you have is there are total of 9 papers. Okay, so out of 9 papers, you have 2 papers as qualifying, that is English and another regional language. The other 7 papers are each of 250 marks. So total is 1750, 1750. Okay, and these out of these 7 papers, one is essay, 4 are GS papers, the rest 2 are your optional subject papers. Optional subject can be anything. The essay and GS are compulsory for all. Optional subject papers it is a compulsory, it is not optional for you, but the subject you choose is optional. So it is you can choose anything out of a set of subjects. So one might have forestry, other might have civil engineering, other might have electrical engineering, I might have physics, chemistry, anything I can. So I had geography as my optional subject. So you will have 2 papers from your subject that you choose. Okay, so now let's go to pattern of examination. So I have already anyway talked about the pattern of examination. So mains may you will have 9 papers. So therefore 4.5 days. So 4 days you will have two papers each day, and other 1 day you will have just 1 paper a day. So it is actually a very tolling process. So you have to write 3 hours, roughly around 3,000 to 4,000 words every 3 hours, and twice a day. So you will be writing around 6,000 to 8,000 words a day, and then come back to your home from your exam center, and you become too tired. And therefore the importance of revision and note making process I'll talk about later on. So this is the pattern of examination. Interview is again it is 275 marks. Interview is 275 marks. So now this is where interview is largely based on your personality. It is not a test of your knowledge, it is a test of your personality per se. Let me not get too much into interview because this is a separate lecture in itself. Now this is very important. Timeline for preparation of each stage. How much time do you need for preparing for each stages? Okay, instead of talking about each stage, let me talk briefly about combine this thing. So you will need about 1 to 1.5 years, 12 to 18 months for preparing the entire thing, and that too with full dedication. Okay, so let's say if I'm starting today, I should be targeting 2021 prelims. If I'm targeting 2021 prelims, I should be very serious from today. Okay, so that you can actually cover your entire optional subject, your both this thing, GS and 4 GS papers, as well as essay, and then interview preparation. Obviously, you do not have to do right now. You can actually do it later on as well. So importance of current affairs and general awareness. This is very important. See, civil services there is no specific syllabus. Okay, so they have just given an outline of what they can ask you, but there is nothing under the sun that they cannot ask. I'll just give you an example. When I was in college, in my final year of stay at IIT Madras, we usually let's see IIT Madras being part of the eastern coast, we usually have cyclones on the eastern coast. So when I was in final year, I had a cyclone. I do not know its name. I think it was Phylline or Hudhud. I do not remember. So I just happened to be curious as to how these cyclones are named, and then therefore I googled as to how these cyclones are named. So if you do not know, just Google it. So what I got to know is that there are 8 countries which have come together. Each countries have given some 5 or 6 names, and they have tabulated those particular this thing into a table. And what they do is they pick up as soon as the cyclone arrives, they pick up a name and assign it. So they cross it out. The next cyclone arrives will be given the next name, and so therefore I was like, okay, this is pretty interesting method of. I was just curious, and this did not help me academically in any way. Now, when I was writing examination of mains geography paper the very next year, I was pleasantly surprised when I saw the questions as to how these cyclones are named. The question was, how do cyclones originate, and how are these cyclones named? So, and this was about, I think, a 15 marker question. So I was pleasantly surprised, and trust me, more than 90% of the people could not answer this question. However, I was luckily able to answer that question. So therefore, your general curiosity and general awareness matters a lot as far as GS papers of both preliminary and mains are concerned. Now, let me tell you one more thing. You see, writing practice is the ultimate key for anybody, because you see, writing practice, you may be having a lot of knowledge, you may be having a lot of things that you may want to write, but you may not have enough time to write this. So what good is it if you're not having enough time to write a particular topic? So therefore, writing practice is the ultimate key to selection of you. See, if you leave one question out of 20 questions in mains examination, that is okay, but can you ensure that you are writing perfectly the rest 19 questions? So writing practice is the ultimate key for mains. Trust me. So what happens is during the mains thing is civil services may anything and everything can be asked under the sun. So so the topic is so vast. So you tend to be focusing on more on reading and rather than writing. But I would advise otherwise. You should write more and read less. So reading is obviously a key, but you should be writing as well. Okay, so now let's get back to the civil services aspect. Training. Training is actually the most interesting part of the entire civil services career, because it is this part of the training that you actually form some bond, and that bond remains, the friendship and bond remains throughout your life. So brief about what training entails. So once you get selected into civil services, you will be invited for foundation course, which is of 4 months. The foundation course happen at 3 different locations. One is Labasna Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy of Administration at Mussoorie. The other 2 places are Bhopal and Hyderabad, of course. So this training, foundation course training, is not compulsory for all services. It is compulsory, however, for few services like administrative service and foreign service, because these services are not allowed to give any more attempts once they get recruited to this particular service. There are services which make foundation course mandatory, but during the training they can do it anytime in first few years of their career. The duration is obviously of 4 months. After foundation course is complete, each training officer is sent to its service training academy, that is centralized training institute, CTIs, and there the location, the duration of the training differs. For IITS, it is of about 1.5 year. For different services, it varies. The location again is different. The fun part of the training is you get to visit a lot. So the picture on the left that you see is what we witnessed in Udaipur as part of our training in Maharaja Express. So the picture on the right that you see is Labasna picture, and obviously the IPS training officers doing parade. So on-job experience is again another thing that is good thing about training. So many IAS officers do wonders in the first few months of their on-job experience as well. Okay, now let's go to civil services impact on society, just to motivate you as to what this service entails. Domains of civil services, there are actually two kinds of services that you have that I listed out. One is executive, and it is also responsible for delivery of services to public at large. The other is regulatory service. So what you see as, this thing, IAS, IPS, IRTS, and to some extent IRS, etc. So these are largely executive services. The auditing and all, the financial aspects, the accounting services are regulatory service in general. Okay, so the beauty of civil services lies in its scale. So just imagine a job wherein you are supposed to handle an asset of about 15,000 crore right from the day one of you joining the service, and one simple decision of one quick decision of yours can affect the financial, make or break the finances of the government of India. So just imagine the scale of potential that a civil servant can that potential that civil servant enjoys right from day one. So just to give you an example, this is what we do in IITS. What we do is, even one quick decision of our officers can bring about uh, disastrous consequences, or it can add to the exchequer of government of India. Similarly, let's say there is an SP and there is a situation of riot in a particular district, and if he takes a wrong decision of lathi charging, this is about, this can bring about disastrous consequences. Similarly for IAS officer, and for everybody as well. So this is about civil services offers you enormous potential as far as scale is concerned and its reach is concerned. Uh, but I would also like to talk about, there's difference between policy formulation and policy execution. See, you can draft a very wonderful policy, but then, see, one size fits all approach does not work always. There can be situations wherein, due to geographical variations and societal variations, cultural variations, etc., a policy may not be equally applicable to different sections of society, different regions, different states, etc. And therefore, the role of DM, the role of field officer comes in. I'll just give you an example. So there are quite a number of examples. There is an example which just happened yesterday. Okay, so this is related to railways. So after the Corona crisis, what Honorable, Ministry of Home Affairs has decided that we will be sending back the migrants who are stuck in a particular state back to their states. So this was one example wherein more than 1,000 people, just to be precise, 1,124 people were sent back from Trivandrum to Jharkhand capital Ranchi. Uh, so as soon as the train reached Ranchi, the state government decided that this particular train needs to be diverted. Now this has had, you see, the people are knowing that this train will halt at this thing, Ranchi, but then they were in for a surprise, probably a pleasant surprise, because many of the migrants belong to other part of the state rather than the part of the state where actually the train was about to terminate. So the government decided that the train will rather terminate at Devghar, the city, rather than Ranchi. And then what happened was, see, this is an extra journey, but this extra journey also has to be, what needs to be ensured is people are actually given food, etc., food, water, and their basic necessities are fulfilled, because they are having to travel an extra mile or whatever stretch of journey. So I do not know how much longer was it. So there was a field officer in Bokaro. He got a call 2 hours before that you have to arrange food for 1140 people, 1124 people. And this fellow, this field officer was in for a surprise. How do I arrange food for these many people, more than 1,000 people, in a state of lockdown wherein there are no eatables available, there are no restaurants working? How do I do it? But then he had his resources, and what he sort of involved NGOs. He sort of approached different factories. So first of all, people need water in summer, and these people did not have even 1,140 water bottles. So what happened was they approached a water factory and got water bottles at a meager cost of about 5 rupees 95 paisa per bottle water. And then they were given fruits, etc., some eatables, and so these people were happy. Now see, another challenge was this had to be done very quickly, because if you, let's say, if you ask the train to wait for, let's say, let the train to wait for hour, and so then these people will start coming out, and many of these travelers might be corona positive, and therefore your district administration would not like to have corona positive people sneaking out of the train and infecting the railway and the district personnel. So this was another challenge, that this had to be done. This entire process had to be done very quickly and very efficiently. And fortunately, this officer was successful in it. So therefore, you see, a policy, no matter how much you envisage, you cannot obviously envisage. There are certain exigencies which will obviously come, and therefore the role of field officer. Okay, so briefly about why service is a norm for civil servants, as against, for normal people, social work and social service is an exception, but for civil servants it is this thing, a norm. And therefore you see service is added in each of the services, whether it administrative service, police service. So just to remind you that this is what you have come here for. Now, briefly about role in disaster management. Civil servants do play a very vital role in disaster management, and you would have seen it in times of corona. I would briefly talk about what Railways has done through an initiative called Setu. Setu is an initiative. Uh, Let me, meanwhile, draw it for you. So, Setu is an initiative. Uh, Sorry for my handwriting because I'm drawing using the mouse. It is swift and essential transportation of utilities. So what Setu has done is, Setu has installed a central helpline. It is an initiative of Railway Traffic Service probationers. So they have come up with a central helpline. On calling of central helpline, what you will receive is the exact information about who to approach for transporting of essential medicines. So Setu has collaborated with many pharma companies as well as many agricultural startups. So this is something that has revolutionized the transportation during times of corona crisis. Now, I'll be doing is I'll be talking about certain frequently asked questions, and this is for beneficial for people who might be having some general queries related to civil services examination. So this is for aspirants specifically. Is coaching mandatory? Okay. The answer is no. See, earlier you might have a situation wherein there was not much resources available online. So now things are available online. Things there is a huge extent of digitization. So all you see, why do you need coaching? You need coaching in order to maintain a schedule, a sort of a pace is provided by coaching institutes. Coaching institutes also helps you in providing a sort of circle of like-minded people. But if you can ensure that you're able to maintain your dedication, maintain your daily schedule, and you are able to uh, continue with the same kind of confidence, you are having a sort of study circle, coaching is definitely not necessary. Now next is what books resources you should choose. See, there are websites like Nunal and Insights on India, which will give you the entire list of resources that you should be, as far as standard books are concerned. But besides, I would like to add that there are certain websites. Just note down. There is Insights on India, INSIGHTS, Insights on India.com. There is IASBaba.com. Third is Brunal. Just Google if you're not able to, just Google IS Baba Insights on India. The first link that you will get is invariably related to civil services preparation. So just explore this website. This is a huge website, and it's wonderful website. This has revolutionized the preparation for many of the aspirants, and brought about wonders for many of the successful candidates. Now, one thing I would like to talk about is you should have your syllabus handy with you. So paste it on a wall, paste it on your cupboard, or memorize it, I would say. So once you have your syllabus handy with you, what you need to do is just note down for each elements of your syllabus, just note down what resources will you refer. Now, don't do duplication of resources. For instance, if you have ancient history as your element of syllabus, don't read too many books on ancient history. Just read one book. Okay, whatever book that you find fit, just read that book. Okay, once you have read that book, just take it, just check it, check mark, and then proceed. So what I want to emphasize on is there is no need to read multiple books. Rather, what you should do is read one book multiple times so that you are able to internalize what you are actually studying. As far as magazines are concerned, I never read any magazines except Yojana and Kurukshetra. I think these should be enough for you. Now, note making, this is again very important aspect. How should you do note making? Now whether you should do it online or on pen and paper, I would suggest that you go for pen and paper. See, although I some in my course of preparation, I actually resorted to both of these. There is a mix of online and this thing. So there are certain resources that you would not want to write and waste your time. So for that, you can actually, I used to have Dropbox and categorization of folders according to my syllabus. So that way you can actually this thing. So just keep it organized. Note making, actually, if you are doing it using pen and paper, it does help you. Excuse me. If you're doing it using pen and paper, it does help you in aiding your writing practice. So that is one thing that you should keep in mind. Now, Delhi. So Delhi is considered the mecca of civil services preparation, or colloquially it is called IAS preparation. So whether you should come to Delhi, if you had asked me this question 10 years back, or let's say 5 years back, I would have said, oh yes, you should come to Delhi because it does help you a bit. It does help you more, help you a bit more. But then now, if you ask me whether you actually need to come to Delhi, it's a definite no. You do not need to come to Delhi. It's not necessary at all. There are test series that you can actually attempt online using your digital tools. All the online, there are materials. There are Telegram channels for sending you study materials. So just look for Telegram channels for UPSC materials, and you will find them. So these are very helpful. Now, this is very important question: how should you choose your optional subject? Now, see, I'll tell you a couple of things. Please note it down. Optional subjects. There are certain people who ask that. First of all, as far as engineering is concerned, there are only three engineering optionals available. One is electrical, civil, second is civil, and third is mechanical, obviously. So if you belong to engineering stream other than these stream, either you will have to take one of these subjects. So if I'm an electrical engineer, I would take electrical engineer, obviously. If I'm an electronics engineer, I would rather take electrical engineer and attempt my examination. Okay, because if you want to take electrical engineering anyway, otherwise you obviously have there is a vast list of subject. So for instance, being a civil engineer, I still went for geography as my optional. Now, this might be good and this might be bad for you for some. So it was a choice for me. So how should you choose your optional subject? Is just look at the syllabus of that particular this thing. How should you look at syllabus? Go to UPSC website. Just download the syllabus of each of the subjects. See if it is doable for you. Then look at the previous year question papers. Okay, so papers. So once you have that, now what you should do is just see if the questions that are being asked is actually doable. Now see, if you do not know, if I do not know psychology, and if I look at psychology paper, it will just be nothing more than black and white letters. So but still, just try to understand as to what are the types of questions that are being asked. So for instance, if you're good at numerics, then you should probably rather see as to if you can explore engineering subject rather than taking a humanities subject. Now, once you have this, the next important part is what is the scoreability of the subject. Okay, this is the most important part. When I chose geography as my optional, public administration was one of the most popular subject, but then in course of time it became one of the least popular subject because of the the nature of the question paper that was being framed. The scoreability was very low for this thing. When I attempted, geography became that, so I became sort of unlucky. When I chose geography, it was one of the most scoring subjects. When I attempted and when I actually appeared, geography became one of the least scoring subject. So for this factor, you do not have control. You do not have control on UPSC as to in 2023 and 2022 what is the sort of questions that will be appearing for anthropology. So don't worry about it. Just go for your liking for a subject. Look at the syllabus, look at the paper, see the scoreability in general, and then proceed. And this, mind you, this is a very personal choice. Nobody can guide you and nobody can give you in black and white that you should go for psychology or you should go for anthropology. This should be your personal choice after all. Okay, how do I assess my preparation level? Your preparation level should be assessed by regular test series and by following the daily schedule that you have. Okay, now let me quickly go through this. How many hours should I put in daily? This is a very cliche question that is asked by aspirants in the beginning of their preparation. See, I would roughly say that you should put in about 6 to 8 hours, 9 hours daily, as far as if you are solely preparing for civil services. If you are actually doing it part time, then I would say you should still put in 5 to 6 hours daily, a thorough preparation, and should be very planned. Although in the fag end of your preparation, when you actually approach the examination, especially the mains examination, you would end up putting 14 to 16 hours daily when you approach mains examination. What if I don't get selected into CS? This is a very important question. You should always have a backup. Now, in this, my personal view is one should, an aspirant who is in his early 20s should not be wasting his youthful years in giving multiple number of attempts endlessly. I think this is a mindless, wastage of one's youthful years. You will not get anything. So for instance, when I decided that I will prepare for civil services, I had decided that I will give one or maximum two attempts for civil services, and that's it. And unfortunately, I got selected in within my first two attempts. So if this today is 2020, so you decide that 2022 I want to see myself as civil servant, and let's say if you have something in your mind of sorts that people do not get selected in first two attempts or three attempts, then you will never get selected in first two or three attempts. If you have a belief that you will get selected in your first attempt, you will definitely get selected in your first attempt or maximum second attempt. So target higher. So set your targets high so that you can actually achieve them rather than being demotivated. Okay. Now, then the next most important question is, should you prepare for civil services? So civil services is a very very tolling process. There is a lot of sacrifice at personal level that you should be prepared for. Uh, 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 just to be giving you an example, if you have sort of family, boyfriend, girlfriend, etc. So you should be having a level of preparedness for sacrificing such personal issues, and then only you can have the required dedication for preparation of civil services. Besides, uh, there is a sort of uncertainty because out of 5 lakh people who actually sit for prelims examination, only about 700 people get selected. So if you look at it mathematically, the probability of you getting rejected is higher than probability of you getting selected. So you should always have a backup, and you should be prepared to take that risk. And if you are risk averse, you better not prepare for civil services. And one more thing, if you are preparing for civil services, want to take that risk, take it early in your career rather than late in your career, because it's always good to take a risk early in your career so that you can switch back modes and change course and then build your career in something else. Let's proceed. Okay, so what are the challenges? So I'll just quickly go through all this. Okay, so now I have shifted my gear from preparation to civil services, in service challenges. So once you get into civil services, you will see your boss shouting at you, and so because things are top driven here. So obviously there are political executives, and there are permanent executives. Political executives are your political bosses. So things are top driven, especially within the permanent executives. Also things are top driven, and therefore you would most of the times end up doing what your boss tells you to do. And this, I'm not saying that personal innovations and individual innovations are discounted for, but it sometimes gets lost in the top-driven approach. The career progression, as far as career progression is concerned, it is it is sort of more weightage is given to the number of years you have put in rather than to the merit. There is an appraisal mechanism, although it is an archaic appraisal mechanism. So, so all career progression is largely based on the number of years that you have put in. So, let's say if you have put in 30 years of service, you may end up becoming secretary, and if you are putting 25 years of service, you may and just finish your 60 years or whatever and reach the end of the retirement age, you may not become secretary, and even though you might be more meritorious than the older fellow. So this is how career progression works in this thing. Lack of stability, again, this is related to transfers. So let's say as soon as you start sinking in a particular thing post, and you actually start getting to know a feel of what this post is all about, you might find yourself having issued a transfer letter in your name. So the other thing is status quoist. So this is something that there is a lot of inertia within civil services because the bureaucracy is a huge system in itself, and to move even an inch there, you need to push very hard, and therefore the sort of inertia is very high. The ivory tower culture, because sometimes being a bureaucrat, being part of the policy formulation, you may end up not realizing that what are the constraints at the ground level. Okay, so there are bureaucratic silos as well, because what happens is there are multiple government departments like just you have within railways, there are other departments as well, wherein there are multiple government departments, and just to ensure that there is smooth coordination between different departments is very tough, and therefore you have a lot of red tapeism, the delay in decision making, etc. Okay, and this is wrong role models. What you have in government is sometimes the people who are actually performing do not get promotion, rather than just because our promotion policy is such, and therefore what you see is sometimes the wrong people see you seeing wrong people at the top actually motivates you to be doing the wrong thing rather than doing the right thing. Okay, so now let's go to future of civil services. I'll just talk about it very briefly. Just let me pick about lateral entry, because this has been a reality in this thing. So lateral entry is something that allows for a private person to come into civil services at joint secretary level or at any scale. So this has been recently done for joint secretary. Although there are some challenges, merger of services is another thing that has recently been announced within railways. But then what happens is you do not know what is the future modalities. There has been talks about merging all the civil services into one civil services and then other police service. So I do not know how things will pan out for as far as merger is concerned. So civil services future is little uncertain as of now. But then in current scenario, it retains its prestige. Now let's talk about. Many of you might be curious as to what is the life of a civil servant like. So let me bust some uh, bubble here. Okay, so first of all, let me talk about the freedom of civil servants. So civil servants invariably are bound by conduct rules. So not only in your personal life but also in your public life, how you conduct yourself is important as far as civil servant is concerned. And therefore when I say something, I may not be implying a criticism of government decisions, etc., government policies. That is against the civil this thing. So that is why I say that whatever I speak, my views are personal and I do not reflect the views of the government. Okay, now working hours for people in the executive, especially people who are in the forefront of the civil services, such as IAS, IPS, IRTS, and there are multiple other services as well. So these people have very hectic working hours. But then this actually comes with a lot of satisfaction as well, because you tend to incrementally add to the system very effectively. And at the end of the day, when you go to sleep, when you go to bed, you would probably realize, okay, I've done something fruitful for the economy and the country. As far as salary, I've already talked about. Uh, uh, there is salary is directly linked to your scale and the allowances. So salary is not much, obviously, if you compare it with the market rate for a people with a similar educational qualification, it is obviously less. Transfers, as you know, I remember a quote by former Coal Secretary Mr. Anil Swarup, IAS, that transfers are like death. Just as you know, death is inevitable, transfers are obviously inevitable. Leaves, just one thing about civil services is you get to go for study leaves. Okay, so these are paid study leaves for you to go for higher studies and indulge in upgradation of skills. So there are other perks as well in terms of this thing, but what actually matters in civil services is not the perks and not the the facilities and all these things that you get. What actually matters is the satisfaction you get at the end of the day. The satisfaction, I talked about scale and reach of the civil services. Okay, so I will just give you a brief example of this has nothing to do with where you are. This has nothing to do with whether you are in civil services or in private sector, whether you are in academic field, whether you are in research field. This has nothing to do with a particular field. So wherever you are, just make sure that your stint actually does brings about some positive changes for the organization that you are working in. And I'll just give you an example. When we were in IIT, we had, as I told you, we had specialization of infrastructure civil engineering. So what happens is first 4 years. So a dual degree program is of 5 years. So you have 4 years. You will be studying with BTech fellows and your BTech counterparts. So after 4 years they graduate, but you continue for one more year. So there will be sort of specialization right starting from your fourth, and then it gradually evolves into totally specialized field in fifth year. So in infrastructure, what we were facing is uh, before there was a professor. I would not name him. He's still teaching. So before he actually came in, the specialization of infrastructure was sort of the regular civil engineering core subject that were being taught. Uh, but after he came in, he sort of brought some innovations, like he sort of brought about case study based approach, case study based teaching, and he introduced the concept of Harvard case studies. And then there was a new approach altogether of orienting the course towards public private partnership rather than totally focusing on the core engineering of core civil engineering. So and the result of it was very pleasantly surprising. See, once you started talking about public-private partnership, there are many consulting firms such as Deloitte, such as PwC, etc. They started looking out for people having such degree, with this specialization, and therefore their employability improved. Not only the employability, uh, uh, you see, uh, these people actually started performing. These people actually learned a lot of new skills. So not only within the academic field, also there were many in the college who were actually starting to audit the course. What is auditing a course means? Auditing a course means attending a course without actually getting due credit for it. So you actually, so it's like learning a thing without actually doing. So it's like doing it for free. So there are people who started attending it just for the sake of learning the course rather than getting credit for it. So now I thank that particular professor for bringing about that particular innovation, that our employability and my friends, my colleagues' employability improved. So that is the impact that you as an individual can bring about in any field that you are. Okay, so now I think that's about it. So we have taken overshot. So let me just take question answers now. Okay, so uh, okay, so where are the questions? I'll quickly go through the questions, please. So pardon me if I happen to miss any question. Sir, should I make notes from newspaper, and how can I discover the micro topics from the syllabus for the mains? How can you discover micro topics? Remember the syllabus, that's it. Break down the syllabus, print out the syllabus, break it down, and remember it. Now, whether you should prepare notes from newspapers, yes, you should, because initially what happens is you may think that you may remember something. Some, let's say a bill has come, uh, uh, and you may think that okay, I remember everything of it, but then once you write it down, you will probably retain that in your memory for a longer period of time, And once you actually get to revise, for instance, if I do something right now, if I learn something right now, 10 months later, I would not know what I learned 10 months back. And therefore, you should obviously prepare notes when you're doing this. Okay, now let's talk about what are this is. Do you really feel satisfied by work? Oh yes, I do. How should a college student prepare for the UPSC CSC examination? I have already told you. Does the job involve a lot of pressure by political leaders? It is not as you think, and this is not important for you to prepare for civil services. There is always a bit of pressure in every job. So yes, this is about governance, and political pressure is not always wrong thing to do. First of all, it's not always a wrong thing. See, the political class represent the people, and therefore what they say represent the voices of the people, and therefore getting pressurized by them for doing the good thing is not nothing wrong. Sir, I am doing my masters in physics. My aim is to become civil services officer after completing masters. Okay, how long will it take to crack? I have already told you 1.5 years is enough for civil services preparation. Uh, okay, 1 second. Prepare how to please guide me how to prepare for UPSC simultaneously with MBBS. This is a question from Mr. Amol. Uh, okay, now let me tell you that MBBS, if you're doing medical science, is a good subject for you to take for civil. It's actually very scoring. So please do it. There are a lot of doctors in civil services. What are the opportunities for research and development professionals in civil services? Civil services is a great equalizer. Say it is open for everybody. You can very well take it. So no matter where you are, which field you are, there are a lot of optional subjects for you to choose. I am final year computer engineering student and graduate in 2020. Can you guide me for preparing civil services, myths, do's and don'ts syllabus? It's a lot of it's a big question. Whether you should join coaching class or not, I have already told you. As far as engineering, computer engineering is not an optional in civil services. You will have to go for another subject as an optional subject. How to prepare CSE along with engineering? I would suggest you that if you have mechanical, civil, or electrical as one of your streams, you better go for this thing if you are good at it. Do you feel pressurized by the political situation? Uh, do you feel pressurized by the political situation around, and does it affect the decision making of yours? And what are the suggestion? Okay, so see at very junior level, you may not have that kind of political pressure. You may have, but then you are largely driven by the rules and regulations, and it is entirely up to you whether you budge, whether you yield to the pressure or not. Anyway, which books? What are the techniques to crack? What is what is the easiest optional? And can one optional one be different from optional B? There are no two optionals. There is just one optional subject. Okay. So what is the easiest optional? So there is no simple answer for it, because had one optional been the easiest, everybody or almost everybody would have opted for it. How to start preparation? As I'm in third year of engineering. Okay, so doesn't matter which year of engineering you are. You can okay. So this is a good question actually. So let me elaborate on it. What you can do is, you see, you can in your engineering stream, you sort of take your newspapers, go to library, look for books which are actually of your stream, of your interest. Start exploring, learn about, read NCRT books to start with, and read newspapers side by side. Read basic things. Let's say when I started, I did not know even E of economics, and therefore the first thing that I did was I started economics just to start with. I did not know what repo rate was, what interest rate, what I was not very sure, and therefore I started first with economics, and that was when I was in college. So you should be doing something similar. Best Indian Forest Service coaching center. I do not know, my dear. Uh, okay, so what kind of medical tests are done when we clear? Okay, do all medical tests are conducted by railway hospitals only? I was rejected. No, 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 no. Medical examinations are not conducted only at railway hospitals. In fact, they are not conducted at medical railway hospitals. They are conducted at government hospitals across Delhi as far as civil services by UPSC is concerned. Okay, so what kind of medical tests are concerned? The medical criteria varies for different examination, different services. For instance, if you are in police service, obviously there are tougher conditions. So the services are categorized into technical and non-technical. In technical service, you need to have sort of you need to pass a stringent criteria, whereas in non-technical the criteria is not as stringent. How to jointly prepare for UPSC and state PSC both simultaneously, books to refer and best optional subject. Best optional subject, again, this is a repeated question. How to jointly prepare for UPSC and state PSC? See, for state PSC, you need to look at the subjects that you have. Maybe you should take an optional subject which is common to both of these. So that way you see the competition in state PSC is not as intense as in UPSC Central Civil Services Examination, and therefore if you have common optional, your half the job is done. So that is what I suggest you go this thing. Uh, which optional you have taken for appearing examination? Oh, I took geography and I regret that, but it's my fate, so you cannot do anything about it. Uh, but then I'm not saying geography is a bad optional. There are people who have been scoring and selecting solely because of geography. So therefore, no optional is bad and no optional is good. It's all about what is good for you and what is bad for you. Okay, this is a long question. Is coaching compulsory? I have answered it. How to complete syllabus in stipulated time? There is no mechanism except being dedicated and having the level of perseverance that this examination demands. Otherwise, you will not be able to complete the syllabus in stipulated time. Okay, yes, therefore, coaching does help you a bit in completing the syllabus. But see, whatever is taught in coaching is probably just 5% or 10% of what you will be actually asked in the examination. Coaching helps you clear your basic. That's it. How to keep ourselves positive, motivated in the entire journey? Very good question. Very, very good question. Okay, now let me elaborate it. So, in order to keep yourself positive in the entire journey, what you need to do is just have a group of like-minded people, make a study circle, and study jointly. Meet regularly, not very frequently, but periodically. Let's say once in a week, or twice in a week, or once in 2 weeks, and then discuss about what all you have done. Write your answers, show it to your friends. You also should see your answers of your friends and then evaluate it. Then you should maybe in a fortnight or in a week, maybe take a break, have dinner or have an outing, go for a movie, something like that. But then you see, just come back and just forget about what you have done. But I would suggest never watch a movie just immediately before examination. How to prepare for interviews? This is not a question that can be answered in a short span of time. What is eligibility rank score of CSE? Studying in BTech. Is there any central services related to data analytics or computer science? No, there is no service which deals solely with data analytics or computer science. But your knowledge of data analytics and computer science will definitely help you in all the civil services, I tell you. Study link materials. Okay, so study link, I told you, go to Insights on India and iasbaba.com. You can also go to Mrunal. Just search Mrunal IAS and you will find a lot of study materials there. And don't duplicate a lot of, don't read too many sources. As I told you, rather revise a source multiple times instead of having too many sources for this thing. Okay, how can I become a civil servant? Okay, how do I manage the preparation? How to? Okay, now there is one friend of ours. He he or she, okay, this is probably she. How to enhance the preparation after 2 attempts, how to motivate oneself to climb the next step. Okay, so my dear friend, you need to be self-motivated. Find a senior, find a friend who can inspire you. Take a break. Take a break of, let's say, 15 days, 20 days after you have failed in 2 attempts. Okay, but then be thorough. Just first of all, you should be very confident that you can actually clear this exam. If you think that you cannot clear this exam, quit it. There is no shame in quitting this process. Okay, so if you feel that you can clear this exam, then only you proceed. Take a break, talk to somebody, and keep yourself motivated. That is the only way to keep yourself motivated. What is IES, Indian Engineering Service? Does it, so Indian Engineering Service, IES can also mean Indian Economic Service. Does it come under civil services? It does not come under civil services examination. I tell you, it does not come under civil services examination. Although it is a civil service per se, because anything that is not military is a civil service, but it does not come under civil services examination. It has a different examination per se. What is the right age to start civil services preparation? There is no right age to start civil services preparation. The eligibility is 21 years, and the maximum as a general category student you can go, excuse me, is 32 years. Okay, let me quickly go to the bottom, because is English available as optional subject? Oh yes, you should refer to, instead of asking me, you should go to the UPSC website, see the syllabus of English as an optional. Similarly, you can see for other optionals also. So that is what I would advise for all of you to do. Okay, I think what you can do is, uh, you can refer to my email ID, which is on the site, which is on the presentation. It is madhukant.kumar@gov.in. I think we have already shot our stipulated time by 5 minutes. So it's time for us to end this session. If you have any queries, you can send an email to me on the particular ID. And again, I would like to put a disclaimer that the views that I have put across are my personal views. I do not intend to represent the views of the government, and I do not intend to, compare any service or many services across. It's all about civil services, giving you a brief of civil services in general, and how you should go about preparing for civil services, whether it is worth preparing for civil services, etc. If you have any queries, please do send to me at the email ID which is given. I will share the lecture as well. I will share the lecture with the PPT with the NPTEL. So thank you everybody. Thank you for patient hearing.